As time passed, Marcelina had a change of heart and finally admitted Victor had nothing to do with killing Johanna. While Victor and Edith stayed hitched for a good stretch, word got out by 2021 that they had called it quits. She had moved on with a new boyfriend and was expecting her first baby, while he had started fresh with another woman. Following over 20 years of messy love triangles, a savage crime, and two incredibly controversial court battles, it looked like the saga of Johanna Casas had finally come to an end. Yet even today, people still argue over the details and wonder if Victor was truly blameless for what went down on July 16th, 2010, or if he managed to walk free from one of Argentina's most shocking cases without a scratch. If this story hooked you, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We drop new crime videos every single night. Catch you later. Stay sharp and keep your eyes open. On the early morning of July 16th, 2010, the usually quiet town of Pico Truncado was shaken by a startling event. Police discovered the lifeless body of Johanna Casas, a 20-year-old fashion model and former beauty queen, in a remote location. 2 gunshot wounds had tragically ended her life. Detectives immediately focused on 2 prime suspects, Marcos Diaz, her boyfriend at the time, and Victor Cingolani, her ex. Yet, the investigation was about to take a much darker and more twisted path. A native of Argentina, Johanna hailed from Pico Truncado, a tiny community tucked away in the northern part of Santa Cruz province. The town is named after a distinctive flat-topped hill nearby, which offers a view of the oil wells that drive the local economy. While there isn't an official record confirming her exact date of birth, family tributes and media reports suggest she came into the world on July 19th, 1990. Johanna didn't arrive alone that day. Her twin sister Edith followed her just 15 minutes later. They were the firstborn daughters of Marcelina del Carmen Orellana and Valentin Casas, who later added another child to the family. Although Valentin, a career police officer, eventually split with Marcelina, he stayed deeply involved in raising his kids. The resemblance between the 2 sisters was absolutely uncanny. They shared identical faces, builds, and voices. And their parents even linked them further by naming the younger twin Edith Johanna. They looked so much alike that their own mother struggled to tell them apart, leading to moments where she'd accidentally changed the same baby's diaper twice because their connection was so seamless. Edith later claimed they shared a psychic link, allowing them to feel when the other was in trouble. For instance, when Edith was 11, she got into a bad car wreck with her mom in a nearby town and slipped into a coma for days. The moment she finally woke up, she immediately started asking for Johanna over and over. Valentin explained that Johanna, who was back home with him, had actually felt Edith calling out to her spiritually. As they matured, the twins blossomed into stunning women, though they developed totally different vibes. Edith tended to be shy and introverted, while Johanna was the life of the party with a passion for style and cosmetics. Johanna's obsession with style eventually pushed her into the world of modeling. She walked the runway in fashion shows and visited big towns like Bahia Blanca, where she snagged the title of beauty queen for Pico Truncado. Back in mid-2006, a 15-year-old Johanna crossed paths with a local guy named Victor Cingolani, who was 21 back then. They ran into each other one afternoon at the neighborhood bingo hall while she was hanging out with her dad and brother. Victor was sitting a few tables over, keeping his mom and a buddy company. He later claimed he caught her checking him out a bunch of times, which fit his reputation as a smooth talker around town. He worked crazy hours at the oil fields and spent his downtime with friends, often choosing brothels over the usual local bar. The guy bragged about sleeping with over 40 women, insisting they just threw themselves at him. After locking eyes across the bingo hall that day, Victor felt pretty sure he could get something started with her. He said she actually made the first move by walking over and slipping him a note with her name and digits. He didn't waste a second texting her, and that sparked their whole conversation. They went on a few dates and decided to make things official pretty quickly. Even with the age gap, Marcelina was okay with it, figuring it was better than her daughter running wild with random crowds. The 2 of them stayed together for about a year and a half. As time went on, her parents started noticing Victor getting aggressive with her. One time, he tried to take a swing at Johanna but missed, putting his fist through a window and slicing up his hand. Things got really messy when the couple split up and he started hooking up with Edith instead. Victor swore his feelings for Edith grew over time and promised he never juggled both sisters at once. While he was still with Johanna, Edith was actually seeing some other guy. Sometimes the four of them would even go out on double dates. Other times, Victor would ask Johanna out, and Edith would tag along just so she wouldn't be stuck at home alone. He was drawn to Edith's quiet, shy vibe. She was just as gorgeous as her sister, but way more down to earth. Even after things fell apart with Johanna, he never stopped talking to Edith. Finally, the pair admitted how they felt about each other, yet Edith insisted on clearing the air with Johanna first. Her sister replied that they were all grown-ups, fully capable of making their own choices, so she gave the romance her blessing. Nevertheless, the unbreakable bond the twins once shared began to shift significantly. Once Edith and Victor got together, their mutual acquaintances drifted away, leading each girl to cultivate her own separate social life. Things ultimately didn't work out between the couple, and Victor started seeing a different girl from the neighborhood. The twins kept navigating messy, romantic entanglements after him until 2 years down the road, when a newly single Victor reached out to Johanna once more. She was actually seeing a guy at the moment, but she dumped him in a heartbeat to get back with her ex. Their reunion burned out quickly, lasting just 2 months, since she was ready for a family and he definitely was not. Following the split, she started seeing a guy called Marcos Diaz, a match her folks absolutely detested. Dark gossip trailed the Diaz clan, including a horrific allegation that a brother of his had murdered his own kid. People knew Marcos for his violent streak, often describing him as incredibly domineering and obsessive. Consumed by jealousy, he bombarded her phone constantly and forbade her from leaving the house alone. Despite all those glaring red flags, the couple moved into a shared place after dating for merely 6 months. Around that same period, Victor rekindled things with Edith, admitting he had never really gotten over her in the first place. This constant shuffling of partners between the siblings was setting the stage for a series of scandalous, heartbreaking disasters. On July 15th, 2010, just 4 days shy of turning 19, Johanna headed to a bash with Marcos. She hung around the celebration until roughly 3 o'clock in the morning. Witnesses last saw her alive, walking out of the spot alongside him. A neighbor walking a dog stumbled upon her corpse early the next day in a clearing about 3 miles outside town. Police swarmed the area known as the Pico Truncado Forest Belt as news broke that one of the Casas sisters was dead. Medical examiners later confirmed she had taken a bullet fired from point-blank range. The round pierced her heart after slipping right between her second and third ribs. Authorities arrested both Victor and Marcos just hours later, tagging them as prime suspects given their history with the victim. Detectives operated on the theory that the two men had conspired to execute the murder together. Their hypothesis suggests trying to dump Marcos for good. The guys allegedly concluded that if they couldn't have her, nobody else would either. A lack of hard proof allowed Marcos to walk free a week later, despite being the last soul seen with her that night. Shortly thereafter, forensics matched DNA found on a cigarette butt discarded at the murder scene. Sadly, Marcos had already skipped town by then, and over 6 months passed before cops caught him and threw him in jail. Victor stayed behind bars the whole time, facing homicide charges for his ex while claiming over and over that he didn't do it. He claimed he spent the early hours of July 16th gambling at the casino before crashing at a buddy's place until 6 in the morning. Shockingly, neither the handcuffs nor the murder charges completely severed his romantic tie to Edith. He later recalled begging for a telephone during his first night in the lockup just to reach out to her. He needed to assure her he played no part in killing her sister and to express how desperate he was to see her face. But she slammed the phone down the second she heard him speak and changed her number, cutting off his access permanently. Desperate for a glimpse of her, Victor feigned a migraine and requested a transfer to the local hospital. While in transit, he spotted her strolling, holding hands with some other guy, signaling that their passionate affair was officially dead. She later admitted that she was enduring a horrific stretch of life during that period. The loss of her identical twin broke her heart while she wrestled with her own personal demons. She felt completely invisible to everyone around her and numbed by too many pills. Victor finally faced a judge for the killing in mid-2012, defending against claims he was a manipulative abuser. Prosecutors hinged their argument on 3 key points, starting with a residue test taken right after his capture that revealed gunpowder on his hands. Next, they presented scent evidence from police canines that tracked him directly to the location of the body. Finally, his defense crumbled when he failed to provide a verifiable alibi for the exact time the murder took place. His attorney fought back hard, petitioning the appeals court to toss the evidence due to major botches in the investigation. There was even a supposed recording floating around where the judge admitted the rookie cops botched the investigation. Even with all that drama, the court proceedings officially kicked off on June 18, 2012. Since a gun was allegedly involved, the prosecution pushed hard for a 20-year stint behind bars. Someone else proposed 15 years, but Victor's lawyer fought for a full acquittal while Victor himself exercised his right to remain silent. A whole parade of witnesses took the stand to share what they knew. Johanna's dad painted Victor as a violent guy, describing a moment he heard the man menacing his daughter over speakerphone. A neighbor testified that her son was home alone that night and pointed out how long it took for the cops to actually show up. The guy who actually discovered Johanna's body told the court he didn't see a single drop of blood anywhere. Someone else brought up the messy dynamic with the twins, implying Victor just used Edith as a stand-in for her sister. Edith, who hadn't missed a single day of court, took the stand while rocking a t-shirt that screamed for justice for her sibling. She told the jury that Victor had a history of getting physical with both her and Johanna. She also claimed he forced himself on them and flat out called him a psychopath who definitely had a hand in Johanna's murder. Once the hearings wrapped up on June 27, 2012, the judge slapped Victor with a 13-year sentence for simple homicide. But if you think that was the end of the drama, you would be dead wrong. Even though he was locked up for killing Johanna and faced some seriously heavy allegations, Edith dropped a bombshell by announcing she was back together with Victor, though nobody understood how that happened. Somewhere along the line, she decided Victor didn't actually do it. She started pointing the finger at Marcos, a guy sitting in jail waiting for his own day in court as the real killer. When people asked about what she said under oath, she claimed her parents forced her to lie on the stand. As for the state's evidence, Edith flipped the script and started agreeing with Victor's lawyer. Just like the defense team argued, there wasn't any smoking gun that actually put Victor at the scene. The lawyer also tore apart the paraffin test used during the investigation, insisting the whole thing was junk science. It turned out they ran the test without a single expert around to make sure they were doing it right. Naturally, that made everyone wonder if the results were even worth the paper they were printed on. On top of that, the cop running the show completely ignored basic safety protocols. The guy didn't even bother to put on gloves, which probably messed up the sample right from the start. Even worse, he actually used his teeth to rip the tape meant for collecting the residue. Even with that sloppy work, the test claimed Victor had a ton of gunpowder on his right hand, which the prosecution treated as gold. Victor, however, had a pretty reasonable explanation for why his hands were dirty. He said he had just been hanging out in his brother-in-law's truck, which got used all the time for hunting trips. According to him, the guy left bullets and residue all over the seats constantly. So the stuff could have easily rubbed off onto his skin without him ever touching a gun. The defense also went after the canine evidence, arguing the tracking dogs were not reliable at all. They pointed out that 2 out of the 3 dogs found nothing, while only 1 signaled a hit. Plus, there wasn't a single independent witness around to back up what the handler claimed the dog found. That made the whole thing look sketchy, especially since the defense argued that scent sticks around for a long time. A person's smell can actually hang in the air at a specific spot for up to a month. So just because a dog smells someone, it doesn't prove they were there when the crime actually went down. Victor insisted the whole trial was a setup, claiming that in Santa Cruz, they will lock anyone up just to keep a grieving family happy. Inside, Victor started doing woodwork and claimed Johanna's death transformed him, making him quit the partying and the booze. On the outside, Edith actually moved in with Claudia, who happens to be Victor's sister. It seems her own family cut her off after she decided to cozy up to the guy convicted of killing her twin. The 2 women started selling the chairs, tables, and paintings Victor was churning out in the prison workshop. He used the cash to buy rings, and during a visit, he got down on one knee and she actually said yes. Unsurprisingly, the twins' parents were absolutely crushed that their daughter was marrying the man sitting in a cell for killing her sister. To them, Victor was the man who killed one daughter and was currently ruining the other one. Right then, Marcelina said something that turned blood cold. She basically claimed Edith was dead to her too. Her body was still there walking around, but the daughter Marcelina raised had disappeared inside Victor's family house. After moving in there, Edith turned into a phantom to her relatives, existing only in gossip and phone calls that she never picked up. Marcelina firmly believed a calculated psychological conditioning had completely turned her own child against the family. This belief was driven by an intense paranoia that Edith was never actually left by herself for a second. To her, Edith was living under 24/7 watch, a prisoner of mind control who couldn't think freely for even a minute. Once the couple made their engagement public, the family slapped them with a court order to stop the wedding. They argued the 23-year-old wasn't in her right mind and they were genuinely terrified for her well-being. They planned the nuptials for December 5th, 2012, back when Victor was only 6 months into his jail time. That legal block pushed the date back, yet evaluation showed Edith was perfectly sane and fit to walk down the aisle. So on Valentine's Day, 2013, the pair got hitched while everyone else shook their heads in disgust. The saga of a lady wedding, the guy charged with killing her twin, instantly became global front page news. A gutty reporter from Argentina snagged the exclusive rights by putting up a bid of $1,500. Reporters swarmed in from places as far away as Germany and the United States to cover the small-town drama. Heavy hitters like the BBC and the Daily Mail were all over the scandal, broadcasting updates constantly. Edith got offers to pose for Playboy and join the cast of Dancing for a Dream, but she rejected every single one. Right before 12 p.m. on the big day, the pair made their way to the registry office in Pico Truncado. Security was tight due to the scandal, but all hell broke loose when Victor rolled up in a police van. The mob went wild, tossing rocks, eggs, and tomatoes while screaming profanities and throwing punches. Rioters smashed up the van and the building doors, ensuring the marriage landed on every front page. Through the madness, the couple professed their love and baby plans, but the fight over the murder case wasn't done yet. By June 4th, 2013, proceedings started for Marcos Diaz, who was sitting in the local lockup. First booked just for helping out, court papers painted Marcos as a violent guy who needed to control everything. People knew him for stalking his partners and getting into brawls involving weapons on the regular. He took a random trip the day after the killing, which looked a whole lot like a getaway attempt. His text to the victim stopped exactly when she died, implying he knew she was dead, unlike his constant messaging prior. DNA on a cigarette and a CD discovered near the corpse placed Marcos at the scene and nailed him as a suspect. While on the stand defending her husband, Edith cried and pointed the finger directly at Marcos for the crime. The twins' dad, Valentin, took the oath too, remembering the final time he spotted his daughter with that man. He called him a dangerous individual into weird rituals, frequently spotted raising hell over at the graveyard. Marcelina took her turn, describing the defendant as someone totally obsessed with her poor child. The guy wouldn't let her breathe, refusing to let her go to family get-togethers by herself. But things got crazy in the courtroom when the prosecutor decided to ramp up the charges. He claimed Marcos was the real killer and the sole person standing there when she took her last breath. Consequently, on July 2nd, 2013, the judge handed Marcos Diaz a 12-year sentence for the slaying. Now, you had a weird situation where two different guys were convicted for the exact same murder by different judges. After hearing his fate, Marcos complained about the ruling and swore up and down he didn't do it. He argued they only nailed him because they ran out of suspects, while Edith breathed a sigh of relief. She was thrilled justice was done, but the girl's mom decided to keep her mouth shut for the press. Their dad, however, made sure everyone knew he thought the verdict was absolute garbage. Victor's attorney said they were filing for his freedom right away, reminding everyone they said he was innocent all along. Since the proof showed Marcos was the only one there, his client had to be cut loose instantly. Finally, on December 5th, 2013, the High Court ordered Victor freed because they didn't have enough to hold him. Once he was out on the streets, Victor went after the government for a payout. He sued for $75,000, claiming false imprisonment, but didn't see a single dime.